Welcome back to another gripping story. Today, you are about to hear the shocking journey of a poor young man pushed by desperation into a marriage of convenience with a wealthy older woman. But what seemed like a lifeline soon revealed layers of dark intentions and a revenge decades in the making. Before we dive into this tale, tell me, where are you listening from today? Grab your coffee, settle in, and if you love emotional stories filled with twists, betrayal, and unexpected secrets, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Plot twist story.
Nathan Cole walked with his head down, his battered backpack slung heavily over one shoulder, though the true weight he carried was far greater. At 24, he was a final-year law student, drowning in mounting debt and suffocating under the burden of his family's misfortunes. His late father had left behind more than just memories. There were loans, unpaid bills, and a legacy of failure Nathan struggled daily to escape. His mother's fragile health deteriorated by the week, and his younger sister's education loomed as yet another debt he couldn't afford. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the very ground conspired to pull him under. Each step felt heavier, like life was closing in around him. Nathan's mind raced with fears about the future. He had been applying for scholarships and legal internships, but none had come through. He could barely afford the gas for his aging car, much less the next tuition payment. The hospital bills were worse. His mother's treatment was draining what little they had left. Nathan had promised his father on his deathbed that he would look after the family, but every day that promise felt harder to keep. A sudden vibration startled him. He answered his phone with a hollow voice, Nathan Cole speaking. A smooth, authoritative tone responded, "Mr. Cole, this is Vivian Lancaster. I'd like to meet. It's regarding your financial situation." Confusion flickered across Nathan's face. "I'm sorry, who? How do you know about?" "I know enough," she interrupted calmly. "Meet me at Lancaster Manor. 7 p.m. sharp." The line went dead before Nathan could protest. The encounter felt surreal, intrusive, and yet, the mention of his finances kept him from dismissing it. That evening, the rain came harder, drenching Nathan as he approached the towering gates of Lancaster Manor. The mansion loomed like a monument to a bygone era, its grandeur cold and unwelcoming. A butler ushered him inside without a word, leading him into a lavish sitting room where Vivian Lancaster waited. She was striking. Silver hair perfectly coiffed, eyes like sharpened ice, skin pale against her dark green tailored suit. Wealth radiated from her, but so did an unsettling control. She appraised him like one might assess a piece of art or a pawn. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Cole," she began, her voice even, practiced. "Let me be direct. I know about your situation. The debts. Your mother's illness. Your sister's tuition. I can solve it." Nathan felt his throat tighten. "And what would that cost me?" She smiled faintly, almost sorrowfully. "Marry me." The words dropped like stones in a still pond. For a moment, Nathan wondered if he'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "It's simple," Vivian continued, folding her hands. "A business arrangement. Marry me, and I will clear your debts, fund your family's needs, and ensure your future. In return, you become my husband in name. Nothing more." Shock and anger surged through him. "Why me? Why not hire someone?" "Because you're young, intelligent, desperate, and alone. I don't want love, Mr. Cole. I want a companion to share my estate, someone who gives me the appearance of family. A legacy." Her eyes softened for the briefest moment. "I've lived a long life, too long without anyone." Nathan left drenched in rain and confusion. That night, seated at the worn kitchen table, he told his mother everything. She was frail, pale from the weight of her illness, but her eyes held a quiet strength. His mother fell silent, processing every word. Sometimes, she whispered after a long pause, survival means making impossible choices. Maybe this is your way out." The words settled heavily between them. Pride screamed no. Desperation whispered otherwise. That night, Nathan lay awake, staring at the peeling ceiling. How had his life shrunk to this choice? By morning, Nathan knew there was only one path left. He returned to the manor. "I'll do it," he said quietly. Vivian gave a satisfied nod, no smile, just the cold finality of a deal struck. A week later, they stood in a sterile courthouse. No flowers. No guests. Only Vivian's attorney and a stone-faced notary. The words husband and wife echoed hollowly. Nathan felt a part of himself detach as the papers were signed. "Welcome to your new life, Mr. Cole," Vivian murmured, the words sounding more like a sentence than a blessing. Lancaster Manor became his gilded prison. The opulence was suffocating, the silence louder than any sound. Servants moved like shadows, avoiding his gaze. Each morning, Nathan awoke to the heavy silence of the mansion, the ticking of antique clocks echoing like reminders of time lost. Meals were a lonely affair, with Vivian perched at the far end of the dining table, her sharp gaze dissecting him without a word. Nathan barely tasted the extravagant food prepared by unseen hands. Every bite turned to ash in his mouth. Days blurred together as he wandered the vast, empty halls. The lavish paintings and polished woodwork felt alien, like a museum to someone else's life. He found himself talking to the walls, his own voice startling him. The weight of isolation pressed heavily on his chest. There was no joy here, no comfort, only the constant gnawing sense that he had traded his freedom for a deck he hadn't even created. Sometimes, he stood before the grand windows, staring out at the manicured gardens he had no part in cultivating. At night, the house creaked and groaned with the ghosts of a past he didn't understand. Nathan would sit in the dark, wondering if this was what his father had felt as the walls of his own life collapsed. Guilt gnawed at him. He had thought himself clever for agreeing to the arrangement, but now he saw the truth. He was a prisoner, not just in Vivian's world, but in his own mind. Regret became his constant companion, whispering in the darkness, reminding him of the price he had paid. At dinner, Vivian sat at the opposite end of a table so long they might as well have been in different worlds. Adjusting well, she asked one night, her tone devoid of real curiosity. "It's different," Nathan replied. A cold smile played on her lips. "You'll learn." The days grew colder. Nathan roamed the halls, haunted by the portraits of Vivian's ancestors glaring down at him. Every door seemed to hide secrets, every corridor felt like a trap. Sleep came fitfully, haunted by the growing weight of what he'd done. His law school friends called, left messages, but he avoided them all. Shame prickled under his skin. How could he explain the prison he'd chosen? Nathan spent sleepless nights wondering if he'd made a deal with the devil. Every luxury around him felt like a chain. Guilt gnawed at him, imagining his father's disappointment, his mother's worried glances. One night, he found a small, ornate key tucked inside Vivian's study. It gleamed like forbidden fruit. Something deep inside told him that key held answers, or ruin. Under the cloak of midnight, Nathan followed his instincts to a door he'd passed countless times. The key fit. The lock clicked. He pushed the door open, hard hammering. The room was a time capsule. Dusty, filled with the scent of old paper and lost memories. Photos lined the shelves, Vivian as a young woman, a stern-looking man he assumed was her husband, and another man, his own father. His breath caught. Documents lay sprawled across the desk. Legal papers, letters, contracts. One stood out, a bitter letter from Vivian to his father. "You ruined us. You destroyed my husband's legacy. Your lies killed him. I will take everything from you, through your son." Nathan staggered. His stomach churned. It was never about companionship. He was bait, revenge, the final piece in a decades-old vendetta. "Find what you were looking for." Vivian's voice pierced the dark. Nathan spun around. She stood in the doorway, expression unreadable. "Why," he croaked. "Why drag me into this?" Vivian stepped inside, eyes glistening with something between rage and grief. Your father left us with nothing. My husband died hating himself. You were the perfect way to finish what he started. I am not my father, Nathan seethed. No, she admitted. But you carry his sins. Nathan fled the room, suffocating on betrayal. The weight of what he had discovered pressed against his chest like a vice. His legs trembled as he stumbled through the mansion's dark hallways, haunted by the faces staring down at him from their gilded portraits. He had never felt smaller, more powerless. All along, he had been a pawn in someone else's cruel game, a blood debt dragged across generations. Sitting alone in a corner of the vast, empty library, Nathan struggled to steady his breathing. His father's face flashed in his mind, the shame, the anger, the guilt. How had it come to this? He had vowed never to repeat his father's sins, yet here he was, trapped in a web spun by those very mistakes. After what felt like hours, Nathan forced himself to his feet and sought out the one person he could still ask for the truth. That night, he approached Marcus, the old butler. How long have you known? Nathan asked, voice breaking. Marcus sighed, a deep weariness clouding his features. Long enough. She's trapped in the past, son. You're just collateral. Desperation drove Nathan to reach out to James, his law school friend. Hypothetically, Nathan began, how do you break a contract signed under deceit? James was silent, then, with proof. And guts. Fueled by rage and fear, Nathan scoured the manor. He unearthed more, Vivian's recent dealings, fraud, blackmail, manipulation. Enough to bring her down. In the following days, Nathan's resolve hardened. He secretly hired a private investigator to gather more dirt and secure undeniable evidence. His hands trembled, his appetite vanished, but he couldn't back down now. When he finally confronted her, Vivian's icy facade cracked. I know everything, he growled. About my father. About your crimes. Vivian stood motionless. For the first time, there was no comeback. Only silence. Police sirens shattered the tension. Officers stormed in. Vivian Lancaster, you are under arrest. As they cuffed her, she sneered. You think this is a victory? Revenge, it leaves stains you can't wash out. In court, Nathan testified. Not out of vengeance, but a grim duty to end the cycle. Vivian received a reduced sentence, thanks to him. In her final letter, she wrote, Nathan, I spent my life chasing ghosts. You reminded me what it means to live. Use what I leave behind to build, not destroy. Nathan sold the estate. He paid every debt. His mother smiled for the first time in years. He created a scholarship in Vivian's husband's name, a quiet atonement for sins not his own. Months later, Nathan graduated law school. He stood at the scholarship ceremony, staring at faces full of hope. This isn't just money. It's a second chance. Later, he read Vivian's letter one last time. Forgiveness is strength. Don't carry my mistakes. Nathan smiled at the sky, feeling the weight of the past finally lift. The legacy he carried would no longer be one of revenge, but redemption. He sat in quiet reflection, thinking about how deeply the experience had changed him. He had entered the marriage desperate, angry, and ashamed, believing himself powerless against a future he couldn't control. But through the storm of betrayal, loss, and revelation, he had emerged with a newfound understanding that breaking free from the sins of the past required more than survival. It demanded courage to rewrite the story handed down to him. For the first time, Nathan understood that his father's mistakes did not define him. Vivian's twisted legacy had forced him to confront his fears, but in doing so, she had also unknowingly gifted him a chance to reshape his destiny. What began as a prison had become his greatest lesson. The cycle of vengeance ends only when someone chooses to break it. With a deep breath, Nathan stepped forward into a future he had fought for, scarred but free.